What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video at JDH Aquatics where we talk about anything aquariums related in my apartment. Now, speaking of apartments, if you guys have been following the channel or if you guys follow me on my other socials, you guys have probably heard me talk about getting a new apartment and moving. And I probably started talking about that like 3 or 4 months ago, and we are finally getting close to the wire on moving. We're in the process right now of getting approved for a spot that we found. Really excited about it. It's a bigger space and it's actually for a cheaper price, and it's in a really good location. Really excited for the move. We're finally going to start getting the ball rolling on breaking down the 20-gallon, consolidating, and getting ready for the new reef corner. I'm gonna try to turn this into a mini series going forward. So today is kind of the first part in this series where we're gonna be moving all of the tanks. I know a lot of you guys, or some of you guys, have gotten some DMs asking what I do when I move my aquariums and the process that I go about. I don't really have like a set way on moving tanks. I've done it a couple of times, and I've moved a 65-gallon was the biggest tank I ever moved. So it's usually these nano tanks that I move, and they're not really that difficult. However, I usually try to keep as much water and of course keep all of the rock in the water to keep the beneficial bacteria. And I'll usually just put it in like a tote. But in the future, we are going to be making a couple of videos on the actual moving process, so stay tuned for that. Today, what I really wanted to cover is going over the plans, of course, for the aquariums. I kind of have a solidified idea on what I want to do with each of the tanks. I want to go over what we need for the aquariums once we get them set up in the new apartment, a couple pieces of equipment, and we need sand and rock, but we'll go over that in a little bit. And then I'm going to tell you guys my plan for moving the tanks and what we're going to do in the next couple of weeks to make it easy for us to move these aquariums. So quickly going over the plans for each of the aquariums. I mentioned it a couple videos ago, but I think for the most part, what I want to do is streamline the aquariums in terms of what's in them and the tank parameters so that we're able to kind of swap corals around the tanks. We do have the 38-gallon, we've got the 30-gallon behind the camera, and the 20-gallon next to me, as well as the 6-gallon Pico below. So we've got a few different tanks to play around with. I am going to be adding sand to all of them. That was another question that I was asking you guys, if we should add sand or go bare bottom on the tanks, but I think we are going to go sand and just do sand in all of them. For the 6-gallon Pico, I did mention that we were possibly going to do a frag tank. However, since it's such a small tank, I don't think that's the best use for it. We are going to do a 6-gallon Pico, and this should be pretty cool in that little lagoon style tank. I'm pretty excited for that one. So a bunch of softies in all of the aquariums. I do still want to do a slight mixed reef possibly for the 30-gallon, so we'll definitely add some LPS and SPS in the aquariums. And then for the 20-gallon, I wanted to try and gear this tank up for anemones. We'll still definitely have some soft corals in there, but I would love to get a couple anemones in there and a pair of clownfish. So I have some ideas for coral as well as fish in what I want to put in each tank. I'm interested in a dwarf lionfish, and I still need to do some research on that for how big of a tank they would need, but I have seen them in 40 gallons, and for the 38-gallon, we have no fish in there. So if we did softies in this tank and did some gorgonias or something like that and added a dwarf lionfish, I think that would be a pretty cool look. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. We, of course, still have the stocking for the 6-gallon Pico as well as the 30-gallon long behind you guys. So if you guys have any suggestions on what kind of inverts or what kind of fish we can put in either of those tanks, then of course let me know in the comments as well. So we've got about 2 weeks until we get the keys to the new apartment, if and when we get approved, of course, but we've got about 2 weeks to kind of collect ourselves and start piecing together the things that we need for the new setups. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the equipment and supplies we're going to need for these tanks. Since we are doing sand in all of the aquariums, we are going to need about 40 pounds of sand for the 30-gallon long as well as the 6-gallon Pico. And if we have any extra, or if maybe we go get some more, I think I'm going to add a little bit more sand to the 38-gallon because we are planning on doing a slope style scape with the sand and the mangroves towards the back. Kind of how we did it in the 20-gallon a few months ago, where we had a nice little corner of just a bunch of sand about 4 or 5 inches. We're going to do something similar for this tank. So we need about 40 pounds of sand. We're going to do just dry aragonite. And then we also need about 40 pounds of dry rock as well. So we're going to do probably 25 pounds for the 30 gallon, and then about 5 pounds for the 6 gallon. And then I think the 38 gallon needs a little bit more, so we'll probably spread some in that tank as well. For the 38 gallons, since we are putting the mangroves in there, we are adding the light that's over this tank over the 38 gallon, if that makes any sense. So this aquarium is actually going to be sitting on this stand. So the same light that's over the mangroves, it's going to be lighting up this aquarium. So I hope that makes sense. But with that being said, we do need a new light setup for the 38 gallon because we won't be able to have the mangrove light as well as the new Sykes. Plus the new Sykes are going to be going over the 30 gallon long. So we need a strip LED reef capable light for this tank. And it's come down to a couple different options. I think Current USA, Aqua Illumination, the blade, that's another option, but I have a couple written down, so we'll kind of go through those and figure out which one's going to be the best for the price. But we do need a new light for this tank, so that's another thing on the list. Now we've got flow down in the 38 gallon. I'm a big fan of the gyre pump that's in the tank. We're going to be adding another one to the 30 gallon long. I think that should be enough flow for the entirety of the tank. I'm just going to put it on one end and it should be enough to just push across the 3 foot long tank. So we need a gyre pump for the 30 gallon. Flow is good in this tank. And then for the 20 gallon, we do have that Petco power head that's in there and it is working. However, for this scape, and I do kind of want to keep it somewhat similar when we set it back up, I think I need to add another power head to this tank in addition to this one. So we are probably going to get another SLW10 that's in the 38 gallon and we'll throw it in this tank here. So we do need a power head for this tank and then a gyre pump for the 30 gallon. I hope my explanations are making sense because all of this is kind of just running really fast through my head, but I'm pretty sure I covered everything that we need to get in the next couple of weeks. We're gonna start ordering stuff probably here this weekend. And then hopefully it'll be here, you know, before we move. And then once we're there, we'll have everything that we need to get up and running. Now, lastly, what I wanted to talk about is the process and my plans on how I'm going to move these aquariums and what we're going to do in the next couple of weeks to make it easy for us. So as you guys know, we've got the 38 gallon and we've got the 20 gallon both set up, and those are the tanks that have water in them, of course. Moving the 6 gallon and the 30 gallon, that shouldn't be a problem. I think we're going to do all of the dry tanks first just so we get them over there. And then the plan is to consolidate both of these aquariums into one. So we're going to take everything from the 20 gallon and just throw it into the 38 gallon. We're going to move around the rock so that we get enough space and we can keep all of the rock wet. We're going to do that for about a week, reposition, and then when we're ready to actually move the aquarium, I think we're going to put everything into a rubber bin or just like kind of a tote, I guess. And then we're going to keep the rock wet, of course. We're going to try and keep as much sand as we can, and then of course as much water as we can. So we'll probably put a majority of the water into some 5 gallon buckets and then get an actual tote for all of the rock, the coral, and possibly the sand as well. So that's the plan. The new apartment is only about 15-ish, maybe 18 minutes away, so it's really not that far. I could probably move everything over and get it set back up in a couple of hours with me and my little brother moving it, so it should be good. I'm planning on getting it all done in one day and setting them up in a nice configuration to film, of course. So I hope you guys are excited for the new reef corner. It might not even be a corner like this anymore. It might be a reef wall if we set them next to each other. So we will have to see what the new apartment brings us. But again, I hope you guys are excited for it. I'm very excited to get into a new spot and get some new content out there for you guys and really get the tanks dialed in, because that's been a big one. I feel like they've been just subpar and kind of lacking in quality. I know they're kind of doing what they've been doing, but nothing really new, and I do apologize for that. So definitely some new coral, some new fish coming, and some new scapes, and some themes for these aquariums finally. So thank you for the support. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave it in the section below, or you guys can DM me at my Instagram. The link is in the description below as well. But with all that being said, I will be sure to catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.